Okay, so what happens after death? It's like the ultimate question, isn't it? The big unknown that humanity's wrestled with forever, often wrapped up in, well, a lot of fear.
It really is. It hits right at our deepest curiosities, maybe our deepest anxieties too.
And today we're diving into something pretty fascinating on this, a really ancient text, often called the Tibetan Book of Death, the Bardo.
Right, and the claims about its age are staggering, maybe 12,000 years old, a tech that was apparently even forbidden for a time.
Yeah, incredibly intriguing. So our mission, let's say, is to try and unpack what this specific text tells us, particularly about those first 49 days after death.
But sort of like looking for a map or maybe even a cheat code for navigating that transition.
Exactly, offering a different lens on it all. We know there are other views, of course, Buddhist ideas about karma and rebirth, Christian heaven and hell, ancient Egyptian judgment.
Absolutely, loads of perspectives. But today, we're really zooming in on the framework laid out in this specific ancient source, the Bardo.
Okay, let's get into it. The first thing that jumps out, really, is how it just flips the script on our usual idea of death.
It's not presented as, the absolute end, not a void, not even standing before some judge.
Right, it's more like a shift, a transition of consciousness, the spirit, whatever term you want to use,
Yeah,
moving from one state to another.
precisely. Less of an ending, more like stepping through a doorway. And importantly, it's the start of something.
The start of this 49-day journey, the Bardo, which sounds like it's framed as a kind of psychological obstacle course, a spiritual test.
That's a good way to think about it. It's a liminal space,
Yeah.
an in-between state where consciousness goes through a series of experiences. These experiences shape what comes next.
So what are those very first moments like, according to the text, setting aside the usual imagery?
Well, it's described almost like waking up, like coming out of a really intense dream.
Okay.
You might feel incredibly light, weightless even.
Yeah.
A sense of profound peace, potentially.
Like a burden lifted. And this is where the clear light of reality comes in. That sounds major.
Oh, it is hugely significant. Think of it as the fundamental nature of reality, this brilliant, luminous awareness.
And the text says, if you recognize it, if you can merge with it right then.
Then that's it. Liberation, enlightenment, nirvana, breaking the cycle of rebirth entirely.
Wow. Straight to the ultimate goal. But it sounds like that doesn't happen for most people. That immediate merging is rare.
Apparently so. And a big reason, the text suggests, is simply not recognizing what's happened.
You mean not realizing you're dead?
Exactly. The mind is so conditioned by life, by having a body, by sensory input, it just doesn't immediately grasp the new situation. The old patterns persist for a bit.
That makes a strange kind of sense. And then there's the other big factor, fear. Good old human fear of the unknown.
Absolutely crucial. That fear, combined with all our attachments, things we own, people we love, jobs left undone, regrets, desires.
All the things that tie us to earthly life.
Right. They act like anchors. They create this powerful pull back towards the familiar, creating resistance against merging with something as vast and potentially overwhelming as the clear light.
So if you don't merge, if fear and attachment hold sway, what happens instead?
This is where it gets really interesting. The mind, fueled by that fear and attachment, starts to project. It creates its own reality.
Like hallucinations, or a dream state continuing after death.
Kind of, yeah. A personalized Bardo experience starts to unfold, shaped entirely by your beliefs, your emotions, your memories, your karma.
So you might see familiar things, hear familiar voices.
Yes, the text mentions seeing loved ones, maybe even figures you consider deities or guides from your religious background.
Ah, so that common NDE account of being greeted by a deceased relative. The text might interpret that differently.
It suggests these are likely comforting illusions created by your own subconscious. Projections to ease the transition, perhaps, to make the initial shock less jarring.
But it's not all comforting illusions, is it? The text talks about encountering divine messengers or even karmic forces.
It does. Beings might appear who seem like messengers or guides. But again, the interpretation within the text leans toward these being manifestations of your own karmic energy.
So the results of your past actions taking form, personified.
That's one way to understand it, yes. Not necessarily external judges, but the energetic patterns of your life presenting themselves symbolically.
You mentioned other traditions earlier. The text apparently references a story like King Dijimunu being met by figures in white robes.
Yeah, it brings up analogies like that, suggesting similar experiences might occur, but interpreted through different cultural lenses.
But the core message remains. These are internal projections.
That seems to be the consistent view in the Bardo Thodo, yes. They arise from within your own stream of consciousness.
And getting attached even to these seemingly helpful or divine figures is also a trap. It can hold you back.
Absolutely, because you're still attaching to a projection, an illusion, rather than recognizing the fundamental clear light or the true nature of reality. It pulls you further into the drama of the Bardo, making rebirth more likely.
Okay, so the comfort can fade. Then comes the scary stuff, the terrifying projections. What's that about?
As the days progress within the Bardo state, the character of the projections can shift dramatically.
How so?
Those peaceful figures might suddenly appear wrathful, terrifying. Landscapes might morph into scenes of decay or violence.
Jeez. Like a personalized horror movie. Is it punishment?
Not punishment in the sense of an external force judging you. The text frames it more as your own suppressed negativity coming to the surface.
My own stuff, like repressed anger, fear, guilt.
Exactly. The shadow aspects of your psyche, the karmic residue of harmful actions, manifesting these intense symbolic forms. It's the mind confronting its own hidden content.
So navigating that fear, recognizing it as your own projection, is a major test.
An absolutely crucial test. Can you see through the illusion, even when it's terrifying? Can you remain centered?
Then later in the 49 days, there's the life review. This feels familiar from near-death experience stories.
It's a very significant phase described in the text. And it's not just like watching a movie of your life.
No. How is it different?
It's described as reliving it. Experiencing your actions, your words, not just from your own point of view, but also feeling the impact they had on everyone else involved.
Wow. Feeling the joy you caused, but also the pain from their side.
Precisely. An unfiltered, direct experience of the consequences of your entire life. There's no spin, no justification, just the raw impact.
That sounds incredibly profound and potentially very difficult.
Deeply insightful, certainly. A complete karmic accounting, experienced directly by the consciousness.
And it's the feelings, the desires, the fears that are strongest at the end of this whole 49-day process that really determine the next step, the rebirth.
That's the idea. Whatever attachments, regrets, or strong desires remain unresolved become the driving force, the magnet, pulling the consciousness towards a specific kind of rebirth that resonates with that dominant energy.
It aligns closely with the general Buddhist concept of karma shaping future lives.
Very much so. Your state of mind at the end of the Bardo propels you forward.
But even deep into this Bardo process, is there still a chance? Can you still achieve liberation and avoid rebirth?
Yes, the text emphasizes that the opportunity remains. At any point, if the consciousness can recognize the illusory nature of all these projections, the good, the bad, the terrifying, and let go of attachment and fear.
Liberation is still possible?
Liberation is still possible. It's like that initial chance with the clear light keeps echoing throughout the Bardo. Awareness and detachment are key.
It's fascinating stuff, but it makes you wonder, as the source hints, why would this knowledge be kept quiet or even suppressed historically?
Well, a couple of potential reasons are suggested. One is simply the danger of misunderstanding.
Like it's powerful information that could be misused if not properly understood or contextualized?
Exactly, that's one line of thought. The other is maybe a bit more controversial.
Go on.
The idea that perhaps some religious institutions preferred not to widely circulate knowledge that emphasizes internal realization over external authority.
Ah, because if people realize their salvation, so to speak, depends on their own state of mind and their ability to see through illusions.
Then maybe the need for intermediaries or the fear of divine judgment from an external source lessens its hold. It shifts the power dynamic, potentially.
Interesting thought. And, it's hard not to notice the parallels with modern accounts of near-death experiences, or NDEs.
The similarities are definitely striking. People reporting NDEs often describe things like floating out of body,
Seeing a brilliant white light.
experiencing that panoramic life review.
It lines up pretty well with some of the Bardo descriptions, doesn't it?
It does. And while science, looks for neurological explanations for NDEs, brain chemistry, oxygen deprivation, that sort of thing.
Which are valid avenues of research, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the subjective experience itself, the consistency of themes across cultures and time periods, keeps raising questions that science maybe hasn't fully answered yet. The parallels with ancient texts like this are quite thought-provoking.
So bringing it back to us here and now, what's the practical use of all this? Is it just about trying to prepare for death?
I think the deeper message is actually much more about how we live. It's not just death prep.
How so?
The text constantly emphasizes detachment from things that are impermanent possessions, status, even our own bodies to some extent, cultivating inner peace now.
Because if our mind creates our Bardo experience, then a calmer, less attached, more aware mind in life will naturally lead to a better transition.
That's the core logic, yes. If you practice recognizing illusions, managing fear, and cultivating compassion while you're alive, you're essentially training for the Bardo.
It reduces suffering now and potentially later. Makes sense.
And understanding that everything changes, everything is impermanent, really internalizing that, not just intellectually knowing it, that's key to reducing fear. Fear of loss, fear of death itself.
It's that classic wisdom knowing the path versus walking the path.
Exactly. Living ethically, trying not to cause harm, developing self-awareness.
Yeah.
These aren't just good things to do. In this framework, they are direct preparation. They shape the quality of your consciousness,
Yeah.
which is all you have ultimately.
So, wrapping up, this ancient text, the Bardo Thodol, gives us this really alternative map of the post-death territory, one where our own mind, our own inner state is absolutely central.
It really shifts the focus inward. It suggests the experience isn't something passively received, but actively, if unconsciously, generated.
It definitely invites you to reflect on your own life, your attachments, your fears, and how they connect to your ideas about death.
Hmm.
And it leaves us with a pretty powerful final thought, right? If that journey after death is largely painted by the landscape of our own mind,
Right.
well, how could consciously working on our inner world now, really cultivating peace, awareness, letting go of fear, how could that fundamentally change not just our life, but maybe that final transition too?
That's the question, isn't it? A profound one to sit with. And maybe an invitation for anyone listening to explore this text or these ideas a bit further on their own.